OM5 has been my go-to camera for my everyday photography since January when I got my own. I did have one from OMDS in the fall, but I have returned it a long time ago and I liked it so much that I got it for myself. And this video is about my experience, what's good and what's bad for my use it for, like I said, my everyday photography. Hi, it's Peter here and let's get right into the business. Do you know where this quote is from? Rain or shine, it's hard to find a camera that does all the OM5 can for the price. Well, it is from DP Review, and those are the exact same thing or the same idea I have said in all my videos about OM5, and there is a playlist that you can take a look and see for yourself. And I think that statement has a lot in it, because when I made the first impression of the OM5, there was a bit of a buzz of negative comments towards the camera and towards me, which was a bit surprising because I don't know, well, there are some people that are negative. But anyways, the thing is that like DP Review said in its blog post about the camera, is that it is packed with features with a reasonable price. That's what it says. And it is hard to find a camera that matches that. Of course, there are a lot of good cameras with different features, with different things. I'm not saying that. Of course there are. There are lots and lots of good cameras, and OM5 is one of them. But the problem usually was that people said that, okay, you can get this and that camera. And then when you go out into the specs of the camera and you start looking at the specs and you say that, well, it doesn't have this and doesn't have that and doesn't have that and it costs more. Or if it costs the same, then it lacks something. So I think OM5 is a pretty good package. All in all, the combination of price, features and usability, all that it's a nice package. But of course, it's not for everyone. I'm not saying that you should get it because it's the best camera. No, by no means. There are a lot of good cameras and even a lot of better cameras. But always we have to consider the price, the usage, and what it is for, and then the features. And that's something, to be honest, it's bugged me a little bit and made me a bit annoyed that people are so narrow-minded. And sorry that I'm mocking you, but most of you are really understand the things and comment it really fairly. But as you can probably see, it really got into me slightly because I was so surprised. But let's get into the good stuff. The reason that I got the camera was the features, and I really liked it. I do have the EM5 Mark III, and you know, if you don't need the features, then don't upgrade. You don't need to upgrade for image quality, for example, because it is pretty much the same. But it's the features. I've used LiveND quite a bit, and also handheld high-res shot is handy to have in some occasions, even though I think 20 megapixel is enough. But it's a good thing to have, and without using the tripod, the handheld high-res shot is very handy feature. And the overall experience with the camera is, to be honest, a lot more than just the features and the image quality. For me, it is the look and feel, and the usability. And the look and feel, I don't mean that how the camera should look. I think it doesn't matter actually, even though having nice looking things is better than not having nice looking things or having ugly things, of course, but it's still not the biggest thing, is the looks. But the feel and the usability are the things that matter the most, because when you're doing photography out there, the easier, the more convenient it is to use, the more fun photography is. And the big part of photography is to have fun, at least for me. I don't know about you, what the biggest thing is in photography. My everyday photography is a hobby for me, and I really enjoy making images in the process of photography. And with OM5, it has worked really well. I added the extra grip to it because it's easier to hold in my hand. I have a fairly big hand, so having the extra grip makes the camera more usable or easier to use. And also, I have the 20mm lens there. I haven't taken it off. I think the 20mm is perfect focal length for my type of photography. I enjoy the field of view of 20mm. It kind of fits for my view and making images very well, and that's why I've used almost 100% the 20mm f1.4 on my OM5. And I also did have it on my trip to Lisbon. That was a camera from OMDS. The 20mm was my own. And here is a video about me photographing the street art in Lisbon. Lisbon is known for its street art, and those who have followed my channel a lot knows that I really like street art and graffitis. They just make the city a lot better looking. Not big a fan of tags though, that's a different thing, but really well-made graffitis and murals and stuff like that's just makes the city a lot more beautiful. But are there any downsides that I don't like? There are not really things that I really don't like, but of course there are things that could be better. And one thing is the menu system. Since I use OM1 for my professional work, I would rather have the same menu in OM5. It would make life a lot easier, and by life I mean photography. It's not a bad menu in OM5, but OM1 has a better menu, and I really don't understand why they have a different menus in these two cameras, because it would have made a lot of sense that OM5 would have the same menu in OM1, because OM1 has a better menu. And then there's one thing that I did not mention in my first impression, and that was the lack of joystick. I didn't think that it was a big deal, but now that I have used both OM1 and OM5 not at the same time, but today doing OM5 photography or having it on my street photography, and then next day going to a gig and then back to everyday photography. Sometimes in a quick situation, my thumb has looked for the joystick to switch the AF point in OM5. I can do the same with arrow pad, but it's in a bit of a different position, and with the muscle memory, it is kind of well, I've missed a few shots because of that, and that is something that I would love to have in OM5, because that's just the usability would be better. And then another thing that I found a bit annoying is that if I have all my normal settings, my so-called best settings stored in C, and then I have set the C2, for example, to a button. But if I have the camera on C, it doesn't work. I can't switch to C2 with a button. If I'm on A mode, then it works. With pressing that, go to the C mode that I've assigned to, and then pressing again, it goes back to A mode. And that is something that I wish they changed, so that if I have the camera on C mode, all my normal settings, and then if I want some special settings, I could press the button and I would go to C2. And I think that's something that they could change in the firmware update. Not sure if that's possible, but I don't see why not. It's just, well, it's code, so they probably could do that. And that would make the camera even better to use. And the B-roll, by the way, is from my trip to Seinäjoki, where I, of course, had the OM5 and 20mm f1.4. And I didn't do that much photography. Like I always do, is that I photograph quite a few images. I'm not one of those that bursts and photographs everything. I just, walk around and look around and then grab a shot if I feel that it is worth taking a photograph. Because me going out and photograph, it's also about observing, about looking around. It's not something that I don't do, or the way that I don't photograph is that I photograph everything without looking around. I think the whole experience about making images is to look around, observe, and then take a shot every now and then. That's just my style. I don't know, what's your style? Of course, I could miss a lot of shots, but I don't care. I photograph for myself for those photographs, so it doesn't matter. And it's also a bit opposite of when I do my professional work, where I sometimes need to take lots and lots of photographs so that I can show the client everything that happened. And but it's a different philosophy when you're doing, so you have to separate, at least I have to separate my role as a photographer. It depends on if I'm working or photographing for myself, so it's a different thing. And then there's the question about, should you upgrade like I did? Of course, that's a different thing for everyone. If you need the features, if you need the new camera or feel like you want a new camera, then yeah, it makes a lot of sense. OM5 is a great camera. But if you have, let's say that you have EM5 Mark III and don't need the features that's been upgraded from EM5 Mark III, then why? get a lens or go abroad or take a trip somewhere and photograph. That's probably makes your photography a lot better than just getting a new camera. But if you need the features, or if you have an older model, let's say you have the EM5 Mark II or you have EM10 cameras, either 1, 2, 3 or 4, then yes, it could make a lot of sense. But always remember that getting a new camera does not necessarily make you a better photographer. It might give you more opportunities to be a better photographer. But becoming a better photographer is about vision, about thinking. Improving those make you a better photographer. And sometimes a camera with some new features might help in that, but it's all up to you. It doesn't make you a better photographer automatically. It's hard work, and you need to do a lot of photography in order to becoming a better photographer. But I have had a lot of fun with my OM5. And I've already said in this video that having fun is the most important thing in photography. And if you have a camera that you feel good photographing with, it probably will give you better photographs. And learning the camera that you have inside out makes that experience a lot easier. So you don't have to fiddle around with settings and things when you're photographing. You can just use the camera and change the settings, without looking into the camera that much, and then just photograph. That will give you a lot more keepers than just fiddling around with the camera. You'll miss everything if you need to do a lot of fiddling around. Of course, you need to do that when you're sitting at your desk. Just learn the camera and set the camera the way you want. And I've always said that setting the camera yourself from scratch to the settings that you like is really important, because while you're doing that, you're learning a lot about the camera. But for those who want the quick way, I do have a link in the description, or it's actually there, for my settings that I use on my OM5. You can buy those, and everything is in the description, the information, or a link to where you can get the information. But always remember, the important thing in photography is to have fun. That can lead to great images. And here is the playlist about OM5. You might want to watch that if you want to learn more about the camera. But hey, thanks for watching, and bye for now.